Good morning and welcome to another episode of Coffee and Tea with AARP. Coffee and Tea is a bi-weekly program in which AARP speaks with Connecticut leaders about topics that are of interest to older adults in the community. Today, I am really excited to be joined by Deb St. Germain, one of the great AARP Connecticut volunteers in Hartford. Good morning, Deb.
Good morning. Nice to be here.
Great to have you. I should mention who I am. I'm Anna Doroghazi. I'm one of the policy and outreach directors at AARP Connecticut. And I'm really excited to introduce today's guest, Alyssa Norwood. Alyssa is the director of the Connecticut Age Well Collaborative, and I can't wait to dig in and share a little more about the Age Well Collaborative. Alyssa is a social entrepreneur, policy expert, and attorney. Prior to coming to the Age Well Collaborative, she helped found and manage Sustainable Connecticut, a voluntary certification program to accelerate municipal sustainability actions. She also led Connecticut's Livable Communities Initiative at the former Legislative Commission on Aging, and previously conducted policy work for the Connecticut Association of Directors of Health. Prior to all of that, she was an attorney at the law firm Robinson and Cole. She has a JD and a Master's of Public Health degree in health law and policy from the University of Connecticut and a bachelor's degree from Harvard. Wow, you've done a lot, Alyssa. Thank you so much for also doing Coffee and Tea.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me, Anna.
So Alyssa, in that introduction, we mentioned that you are the director of the Connecticut Age Well Collaborative. Can you tell us a bit more about what the Age Well Collaborative is, what its goals are, and how it came into existence?
Sure, my pleasure. Thanks again for having me. So the Connecticut Age Well Collaborative really is here to celebrate the fact that Connecticut's demographics are changing, that we have increasing numbers of older adults, people with dementia and disabilities in our community. And because we all know that we're richer and stronger and better when we include the full extent of our strength and create places where everyone can belong, there's a really unprecedented opportunity. So the Connecticut Age Well Collaborative, responding to that moment, we were founded in 2020. It was a group of volunteers that moved forward with creating this initiative, and I joined the team as the collaborative's first director this year to move forward this statewide initiative that's really about creating Connecticut communities where all of us can thrive as we grow up and grow older and create the most aging, dementia, and disability inclusive spaces that we can. So I'm very excited about this work.
It does sound exciting and very new. So the Age Well Collaborative and AARP are both invested in creating livable communities. At AARP, we think of livable communities as great places for people of all ages. How does the Age Well Collaborative define a livable community? And what are some of the features of that livable community?
Yeah, those are great questions. And before I answer, I also want to make sure that I celebrate and recognize AARP's role in all of this. So folks might know that even though the collaborative is new, this work isn't in Connecticut. And the story really begins back in 2007 when the World Health Organization at the international level launched this movement that was at the time called age-friendly cities, about creating places all over the world that we could successfully live our lives across the lifespan. And as part of that effort, the World Health Organization was looking for international affiliates. So in the United States, AARP is the World Health Organization designated affiliate of this movement. So I just want to thank AARP at the national level and also here in the state of Connecticut for its leadership and resources that are going to do tremendous things for our movement and the work that we're doing. So what is a livable community? It is a place where everyone belongs. It's inclusive, it's vibrant, it's intergenerational. It's a place where we can all thrive across the lifespan. And probably, I would say its defining feature is that it's intentional in planning with an aging, dementia, and disability lens. So what do I mean by that? I'll give one example. I'm a parent of 3 school-age children, and 2 of them are in walking distance of their schools. So 2 of them walk to each of their respective schools every day, and the walkability of our neighborhood supports that. for one of our children. For the other one, there's a very tricky street crossing. And through advocacy and changes over time, that particular crossing has slowly gotten safer. There's striping now such that the roadway invites slower speeds than it did before. There's a crosswalk at the spot that's really critical for my child to safely get across the street. So those are aspects of a livable community. They're walkable, they're navigable, but this intentional piece about planning with an aging, dementia, and disability lens is important. So incidentally, if we're planning streets where children can walk across safely, an older adult could get across safely too. And that's great, and that's celebrated. But the Age Well Collaborative is really trying to take the conversation to the next level and make sure that we're really thoughtful about the specific needs of each population. And in so doing, we help all populations. So that's the beginnings of an answer of what livability looks like.
Great. And you mentioned inclusivity, and it's an important part of a livable community. And the Age Well Collaborative has a special focus on fostering aging, dementia, and disability inclusivity. My question is then, what do aging, dementia, and disability inclusive communities look like? And how is the collaborative working to bring about that greater inclusion?
Those are all great questions. So it's a lens through which our organization and our partner organizations see the world that impacts everything. So the World Health Organization helped pave the way for us by coming up with a framework that looks at 8 different areas that help promote this inclusivity. So we talked about one of them in the example I just gave about making sure that we can all walk our streets safely and with ease, regardless of whether we're in a car or a pedestrian or on a bike. So one of the 8 World Health Organization areas is transportation. There are others like housing, economic opportunity. So they're all lenses through which to look. The Connecticut Age Well Collaborative then took that framework and adapted it and right-sized it for Connecticut. So we have 10 different topical areas that we look at. The World Health Organization uses 8. You can find more information on our website about what those areas are. But a couple of modifications that we made to the World Health Organization framework that we think are important. I'll just give one example. We included a new category that's not explicitly in the WHO framework on public safety and preparedness. So we learned a lot in COVID, and the lessons continue to be deep and enduring. And we hope that we're able to transcend forgetfulness and continue to move forward into the future with a lot of thought and intentionality based on the lessons learned there. But public safety and preparedness, we inevitably may forget. A new challenge will arise before us, and we need to think very thoughtfully in a world where there are an increasing number of climate-related events, where there may be future pandemics, where public law enforcement officers are being called to do their work in different, broader, and deeper ways than ever before. And there's an increasing amount of social work and interaction in the work that they do to make sure that an aging, disability, and dementia inclusive community is being very thoughtful about those populations. So that if I'm a police officer and I encounter an individual, a care partner, a family member of one of those populations, that I'm specially trained and equipped to know how to respond appropriately, compassionately, with sensitivity, and make sure that those individuals get what they need with great dignity.
It's all really important, and it's a lot of work to do. And fundamentally, one of the things that's interesting to think about with the livable communities work is that a lot of this feels intuitive, right? Like back to your example of crossing the street, I don't think there's anybody who would say, oh no, it should be dangerous for kids to cross the street, or it should be hard for people with mobility issues to navigate their communities. So even though I think a lot of people agree with some of the fundamental underpinnings of, what makes a livable community, what gets in the way of communities when it comes to becoming more age? Why does the Connecticut Age Well Collaborative and AARP and so many grassroots community groups have to put so much special effort into advocating for changes in our communities to make them work better for people of all ages?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it's one that we all grapple with, and there are a lot of potential different answers. One frame that comes to mind is that as a society, we do a poor job compared to other cultures of celebrating the opportunities that come with aging. And because as a society, we haven't fully reframed our aging narrative, there isn't necessarily full recognition of the opportunity, the vitality, the gifts, the accumulated wisdom that come with aging. So as a result, sometimes there's this otherization, right? That's someone else. That's someone else's problem, might be the trope or the narrative. But the reality is this is our collective journey. We're all aging. We all know people who are aging. Very likely, based on statistics, we know someone and love someone in our lives that has dementia or identifies as having one or more disabilities. So I think the first barrier, and one that we're working to overcome with some training that we're going to offer beginning in 2023 that builds on the great work of other organizations, is to reframe the conversation so that this is a we, this is an our, this is something that impacts every single one of us. So when we can shift the frame and we can shift the conversation and we see that this is our collective journey, it becomes more urgent, it becomes more important, it becomes more relevant. And I think it creates a greater tapestry of connection, because there's so much in our society right now to lead us to a place where we can get really divisive. But the one thing I think we can all agree on is that we're all aging. If we take that awareness into our lives and our community building and the way we shape and frame communities, we know that we'll all have a greater journey and ability to thrive if we're aware.
Great. And I think that's really well said. And how sort of important and urgent is this work? Why is now a good moment to come into this? And if we don't embrace the lens that you're talking about and become, better, more inclusive places for people across the lifespan, what could be some of the consequences of not doing that hard work moving forward?
Yeah, they're significant. We talked about how this work is broad and impacts a lot of different areas. One of those areas is housing. So like many people in Connecticut, I'm privileged to live in a single family home. The bedrooms are on the second floor in my house. And that's true of 70% of Connecticut's housing stock, that it's single family with bedrooms on the second floor. And there might become a moment as a result of my aging process or some unforeseen circumstance where we're all unsure what tomorrow brings. There might be a moment where I can't navigate this space, or I might not be able to navigate my community. And that individual story bears out in the statistics and the literature. Anna, you and I are going to be joining our colleague Christy Stewart next month as part of a conference that's being put on by the Partnership for Strong Communities, where we're going to talk, the three of us, about housing. And one of the statistics in the Centers for Housing Opportunities report that's going to be highlighted is that 1 in 3 housing units in Connecticut needs to be accessible, meaning that somebody with atypical or non-youthful ability to navigate their space, it needs to be designed differently than it is. So 1 in 3 housing units need to have universal design features, and we're nowhere near that level of readiness. So the mismatch of Connecticut's demographics and the needs in the way our communities are thought through and designed need to align very quickly. So there's urgency there.
So this is a little off topic, but what excites you most about this work?
Oh gosh, there's so much that excites me about it. I'm very hopeful because this movement has been very present and prevalent in Connecticut now for more than a decade. And there are a lot of incredible organizations and partners that are all working and marching in the same direction, trying to create thriving communities. So I'm hopeful and excited at the synergy and the opportunity that there's so many different organizations that are all really converging in the same place, because an organization that's passionate about environmental sustainability and wants to see a reduction in carbon emissions is going to try to create opportunities for people to walk more. And, as we think about the economy and business development, people that drive by stores are much less likely to shop in them and frequent them than those who walk by stores. just giving this one example of creating a walkable place, there are many different reasons that are all converging toward this same idea that we all want to thrive in where we live and work.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alyssa. So for folks who are hearing this and feeling called to take action in their own community and are identifying with the lens that you're describing, what are concrete actions that people can take to help create these thriving, age-friendly communities where they live?
There are a lot of different great organizations that are doing this work. If there's interest in making your community more livable, specifically more aging, dementia, and disability inclusive, I want to start with the resources that the Connecticut Age Well Collaborative offers. And the first is that we're launching in 2023 our Age Well Academy, with training opportunities, mostly for people who work in town government, but really for anyone who's interested in learning exactly what it is you ask. And there's a long list of actions. So we encourage you to go to Connecticut Age Well Collaborative's website and sign up for our e-news to learn more about the Age Well Academy, and you can participate. In terms of other organizations that can offer specific resources that can help your community become more inclusive in this way, we refer you to AARP's Age-Friendly Network of cities and states, where there are tremendous lists, guidebooks across all of these different domains of housing, transportation, economic opportunity that give really specific and concrete steps, as well as Dementia Friendly America and Sustainable CT. So those are just some of the organizations that you can consult, but the list of things to do is long and exciting.
Yes.
And there's no better time to start than now, right? We'd love to see more people embracing these ideas that you're talking about and getting involved. And I should mention too, throughout the conversation, a couple times we mentioned the idea of universal design. Just want to give a quick plug for a webinar that's coming up from AARP on December 6th at noon. We are going to have an expert from the R.L. Mace Universal Design Institute talking about accessible housing and accessory dwelling units. So that should be a really fun conversation. So thank you both so much. Deb St. Germain, AARP Connecticut, volunteer from Hartford. It is always a ton of fun to talk to you. Thank you for all that you do throughout the Hartford community and statewide with AARP Connecticut. And Alyssa Norwood, thank you so much for the work that you're doing with the Connecticut Age Well Collaborative. And thank you for taking the time to be with us today to have this conversation.
My pleasure. Thank you both so much for the work you're doing.
Thank you.